Well, I'm speaking with Peggy Little, and Peggy, you're the chairman of the trustees for the Garden Club of South Carolina's Memorial Garden. And tell people, please, what the Memorial Garden is and how it began.
Well, the Memorial Garden was gifted by Sarah Boylston to the Garden Club of South Carolina in 1945 with the understanding and the stipulation that it would be open to the public and be dedicated at that time to veterans of World War II.
Although now, of course, it is used to honor all service members, from what I understand.
All branches of service, past and present.
Now, the Garden Club of South Carolina wanted to do this, and Mrs. Boylston lived at that time, her private home, was adjacent and kind of on the governor's mansion complex. And it was a very steep, and so she gave the very bottom of her garden a long rectangular section for this purpose, I believe.
That's correct. That's correct. And it is actually a cathedral style garden, and you get the cathedral feel when you walk into the main gate at the front of the garden, and you have the beautiful fountain at the end and St. Francis to look after the garden at the very end. So just beautiful greenery on both sides.
One thing that I think captures the interest and is maintained special interest is that the original plan, which has been tweaked but still has been the inspiration, was done by someone with great connections to South Carolina, and that was Loutrel Briggs, I believe.
That's correct. Such a renowned landscape architect, and we were thankful to be able to have him to design the garden.
I believe he gave his services and did not charge because he was honored to be a part of something that was so visionary.
Absolutely. And thank goodness there are people in our nation that appreciate veterans and all that they've done for our freedom.
On special occasions, because sometimes people have weddings or y'all have special events, there are times when the gates off Lincoln Street itself right into the garden are open, and that was the original way that people entered the garden. And it's quite interesting to see that because of course Loutrel Briggs had done many narrow gardens in Charleston, that his ideas fit in so beautifully, starting with a beautiful wrought iron gate.
Yes. Now the front two black wrought iron gates were gifted by the East Piedmont District of the Garden Club of South Carolina. And so we're very proud of those gates. And of course, there is a back gate on the Dial wall that Mr. Dial donated.
As we walk in from the original intended entrance with those beautiful wrought iron gates and the beautiful brickwork, there are two small buildings there for a garden shed and a little office bathroom. And there's some brickwork and boxwoods that kind of define, here's the beginning of something. But then you do enter a large expanse of lawn, and as you said, on either side, towering heritage shrubs and trees to give you that cathedral effect.
Absolutely. And the little gatehouse is beautiful in and of itself. And then the tool shed on the left-hand side is one of Loutrel Briggs' designs as well. I mean, he designed the garden with the gatehouse and the tool house. And then James Cothran updated the design. And so we're thankful for his contributions as well.
Yes. Gardens are not static. Things have to be replaced and tended and pruned and all of those things. And as you reach the front of the garden, there is brickwork and then slightly raised flagstone area with a beautiful fountain. And as again you said, St. Francis watching over the garden.
Yes, and people go into the garden, I'm told, and just meditate. And you have the sound of the water in the fountain. And then you have the camellias on either side, and the actual tree in the back is an actual ligustrum plant. I know,
Uh-huh.
Amanda, you've seen them get in tree form.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
so it's amazing how it's all worked out, but it was by design.
And then it was also further honored by being nominated and placed on the National Register of Historic Places, which I
Absolutely.
think is something to be proud of.
Yes, we're all proud of all the accomplishments and the fact that we are able to maintain the garden, keep
Yes.
it going. It takes a lot of money to, replace plants and just maintain the garden.
The state of South Carolina, because of course now the Caldwell Boylston House is owned by the governor's mansion complex, and so it all kind of ties together. And the state has been very generous when
Absolutely.
you've run into problems. You had a big drainage problem that was one of the last things you had to fix because y'all were right smack at the bottom of the hill.
Yes, we were, and water is going to go where it wants to go, as
Yes,
you
it
know.
does.
And so we had a drainage problem that we had to deal with, and just thanks to uh, the state of South Carolina admin, I should say, and just all the great people there that we worked with, we couldn't ask for better neighbors.
Yes. The brick area now has some bricks that have been placed by family members in memory or in honor of veterans. And I noticed that there are some from the Vietnam War. So anyone who's interested in pursuing that and honoring one of their family members um, can do that as well. It was touching when I was there this morning looking to see that they show, of course, the birth date and death of each individual person. And the death date was D-Day. This veteran was killed in the landing, fighting against fascism to preserve democracy. It's a beautiful garden,
Well,
and I think of
and that those brick pavers allow a platform for the
yes,
fountain, and that's that's the project now, and there will be projects later on.
certainly.
And I want to say thank you to the presidents and the trustees before my term, that they did all that they did. Um, each term they try to build on what the others have done, and so our trustees are just wonderful, and our president and all the club officers are very supportive.
Let me take a moment to explain to people that usually the wrought iron gates are usually kept locked because sadly people might come in at night and do vandalism. And so the garden is open um, most of the time on normal weekdays during normal business hours. And to access it, you actually walk to the top of Lincoln Street and turn there's a walkway for pedestrians into the mall. And so you then go into the Caldwell Boylston Garden, which is the first house right there, and
Yes.
a lovely garden in its own right, and walk down through that to get to it. And while you're there, you should also walk over to the Lace House. You cannot go into the governor's mansion side, but the
Right.
mall side you are allowed to go into, and that is the easiest way. And it's delightful because you just get more and more excited about plants, and then finally you end up in the beautiful memorial garden. Thank you so much for the work that you and your fellow trustees and all the garden clubs in South Carolina have done to let us remember the sacrifices made by those who serve our country.
Well, it's been my honor, and thank you so much for bringing attention to our beautiful memorial garden, Amanda. Thank you so much.